And welcome to BDA News, a student-provided news program. This is Andy Hong. As you guys might know, our broadcast yesterday was cancelled due to that lame earthquake, which originated, in La Habra and had a magnitude of 5.1. Initially, I tried not to be like the other anchor, like, we're having an earthquake, and continue being the boss that I am, thank you. But this one began to become really strong, and we really had no choice but to evacuate. The earthquake left no fatalities in its wake, but it did cause a rock slide and several aftershocks, like the one this afternoon. So, safety first. And quick lesson, most people confuse the epicenter of the earthquake with its focus. The focus is the point in the Earth's crust or mantle where the earthquake begins, whereas the epicenter is the surface location. In this case, La Habra. Shout out to my freshman CS1 teacher, Mr. Straight. Yeah. But now it's time for some BDA world news that got delayed. Apparently, new data has shifted search area for Malaysian Air Flight 370, which disappeared about 3 weeks ago and is now presumed crashed, as announced by the Chinese government earlier this week. The general search area has been focused more intensely on the southern Indian Ocean this past week and, for now, 2 weeks now, but further radar analysis by Australian authorities led to the conclusion that Boeing was flying faster and was thus consuming fuel more quickly than previously believed, thereby causing recovery workers to move the entire search area 1,100 kilometers or 680 miles to the northeast, closer to the Australian coast. Contrary to what you all might have been hearing through the news, this lead isn't based on the new satellite images showing debris in the ocean. In fact, the Australian authorities downplayed the significance of the images, noting the lack of actual visual contact. But recent patrol reports from yesterday did confirm debris in the ocean. We just might have found MH370. And we'd like to apologize if all the Malaysian Air news has been boring you, because we got another old cruddy piece of news coming up. Ukraine. Congress approved overwhelmingly on Thursday for $1 billion in aid to Ukraine, 399 to 19 in the House and 98 to 2 in the Senate, with President Obama publicly condemning Russia for its conduct and affirming his support for Ukraine. It's clear that this massive aid package will most likely pass. Well, if the government would just work like this to save the economy more efficiently, that would be nice, but for now we'll just have to settle with another slow and painful involvement in another conflict thousands of miles away. Just to put in perspective how messy the conflict over Crimea is right now, Russia allegedly has over 40,000 troops just across the Ukrainian border, and according to CNN, not satisfied with seizing Ukraine's only submarine, has also confiscated and enlisted Ukraine's arsenal of trained military dolphins. In nearby Turkey, just days after banning Twitter, the government has also outlawed access to YouTube in the country 2 days ago. The Radio and Television Supreme Council, Turkey's agency for media regulation, announced that the crackdown was due to purported leaks of classified government information about the possibility of going to war with Syria. To hammer the point home, the council has also banned all conversations on this matter over the internet. Right now, fears are increasing on whether or not these crackdowns will lead to broader restrictions on media like those right now in China. Well, there are also a lot of events happening back in the United States, just overshadowed by all of this international stuff. Well, last week on Saturday, almost a month of torrential rainfall caused massive landslides in Washington state, covering large swaths of land and tons of mud, and in the process trapping a currently unknown number of people under all of that debris. In the hard-hit town of Oso, Washington, according to New York Times, at least 17 bodies had been recovered by Thursday, but authorities expect numbers to rise as the search and rescue efforts continue. And as if all that fuss with Obamacare and the stalemate in Congress aren't problem enough in American politics, more trouble seems to be on the way. Just how much worse could it get, you ask? Well, it seems like Governor Chris Christie is finally busted for his George Washington Bridge scandal, in which, if you don't remember, because it was so long ago, September 2013, woohoo, Governor Christie's deputies closed down the crucial George Washington Bridge in Fort Lee, New Jersey in September as political retaliation against the city's mayor, who refused to endorse Governor Christie's during the election. Oh my gosh, I'm having a lot of trouble today. Until now, Governor Christie's deputies took the majority of the heat, but as I said, that was until Thursday when David Wildstein, the Port Authority official who was in charge of shutting down the bridge, announced that he had informed Governor Christie of the diabolical plan before it was implemented with such deadly effect. Now, will this be the end of Christie's chance of running for president? Well, we'll see in 2016. I think that's enough for the depressing news for the week. Let's go on to some lighter but nonetheless significant matters. Facebook has come a long way since 2004 when it was first launched. However, the workers of Facebook decided that what they have right now isn't cool enough for them and created a lab working on internet providing solar-powered aerial drones. Yeah. Seriously, how much cooler can it get? After offering $2 billion to buy Oculus VR, a new Southern California virtual reality headset company, and buying WhatsApp for $19 billion, Facebook is once again looking toward tomorrow. But it's simply amazing what these drones can do. You know, in Kenya, the authorities there are going to deploy drones to help with the anti-poaching effort. To me, it underscores the importance of technology and science in our lives, which directly leads us to this week's science news. Well, last week's priceless news about dark matter and whatnot took out a lot of steam and glamour for a lot of the science news that surfaced last week, but I'll try to make it sound interesting to the best of my abilities. Most of you associate rings on celestial bodies to generally larger objects. Saturn has its beautiful assortment of ice and dirt and God knows what around it. The solar system is a sort of a ring around the sun, and I guess the Milky Way spiral arms are kind of like a ring. However, on Wednesday, astronomers made a surprising discovery of a ring around the 250-kilometer wide asteroid named 10199 Chariklo. Wow, I think I totally butchered the name. And although 250 kilometers or around 160 miles might seem big to you, it's beyond tiny in astronomical standards, making the asteroid the smallest object with a ring ever found, not counting your fingers, of course. To finish things off, after about 2 or 3 weeks of neglecting this day in history, we decided it would be nice to revisit what happened on Friday in the past. Well, that makes it this Friday in history. But anyways, on March 28, 1939, the Spanish Civil War ended with a triumphant nationalist army led by fascist General Francisco Franco marching into Madrid. Almost 1 million lives were lost, and the bloodshed and the countless engagement of the Civil War served as the prelude for World War II, which began officially in Europe in September 1939. 30 years later, on the same day in 1969, the hero of World War II and America's 34th President, Dwight D. Eisenhower, died in Washington, D.C. at the age of 78. Another 10 years later, in 1979, still on March 28th, a partial nuclear meltdown occurred at the 3 Mile Island nuclear plant in Pennsylvania. It was the worst commercial nuclear accident in America. But mind you, nuclear fission can be safe, reliable, and renewable if it has the right facilities and has the adequate public support. We also know that fusion is viable in a man-made plant. But before this becomes another science rant of mine, this was BDA News World Headlines for this week. Again, if you have any questions, concerns, comments, requests, inquiries, inputs, takeaways, shoutouts, suggestions, reviews, and or complaints, just head on over and email us at bdanews@gmail.com. That would literally be bdanews@gmail.com. Unfortunately, no local news with the Mr. Isaac Ju tonight. We'll see you next week. This was Andy Hong. Over